be hunger protocol. The city of New Dresden slept under a sky the color of gunmetal. Rain fell in surgical precision, slicking the streets with reflections of dying neon. Somewhere in the sprawl, alarms wailed like distant cries, warnings swallowed by the hum of surveillance drones. Beneath this fractured skyline, Elias Ward ran. His coat was soaked, his breath shallow and beneath his skin. Something inhuman pulsed, a hunger born not of need but of design. They had called it Project Helix, a military experiment meant to craft perfect soldiers, faster, stronger, incapable of remorse. But when the serum entered Ilias's veins, it didn't create a weapon. It awakened one. He remembered the moment the transformation began, the taste of iron at the back of his throat, the way his heart began to stutter, then roar, until every sound in the world grew painfully sharp. The fluorescent lights of the lab had flickered, painting his reflection in crimson and white, and in that reflection his eyes glowed like twin embers. Now, 2 weeks later, he could barely contain it. Every heartbeat was a drumbeat of violence. The serum, the hunger protocol, rewired him, urging him to hunt, to kill. He fought it with every fiber of his mind, clinging to fragments of his humanity. A photograph of his sister Anna, her smile soft and real, untainted by science or war. Sometimes, when the hunger quieted just enough for him to breathe, Elias would remember what it felt like to be human. The sound of Anna's laughter echoing across the riverbanks, the scent of summer rain, the warmth of touch that didn't come with the fear of breaking something fragile. Those memories were like fragile glass, beautiful, painful, and slipping through his fingers no matter how tightly he tried to hold on. In the stillness between heartbeats, grief and rage tangled inside him until he could no longer tell them apart. What terrified him most wasn't the hunger. It was the thought that, soon, he might no longer miss what it had taken from him. He needed a cure. Dr. Maren Kale, the scientist who once led the project, was the only one who could reverse the mutation. She had disappeared after the first test subjects went rogue. Bodies found shredded eyes wide with terror. Elias tracked her across abandoned medical facilities, her old research logs leaving breadcrumbs written in code. Each message ended with a haunting refrain. The cure is memory, but memory hurts. He found her one night in an old hospital on the edge of the quarantine zone. The corridors smelled of rust and antiseptic decay, walls lined with the ghosts of failed experiments. When he entered, Maren was waiting, frail, pale, eyes sunken with guilt. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "You were never supposed to survive the trial." Elias gritted his teeth, the hunger gnawing at his veins. "You made me this way. Now fix me." She hesitated, her hands trembling as she lifted a syringe filled with liquid black. "There is no fix. The serum doesn't just alter your body, it overwrites who you are. The only way to stop it is to erase everything that made you human." The lights flickered. He felt the pulse again, that violent rhythm inside him, begging for release. His nails dug into his palms until blood dripped to the floor. "Do it," he growled. But Maren's gaze softened. You don't understand. The protocol feeds on emotion. If I remove it, it might take your memories, your sister, your past, everything. A shudder passed through him. For a brief, unbearable second, he saw Anna's face, her laughter echoing from a forgotten childhood. Then came the scent of blood, sharp and metallic, and the shadow of the monster clawing to get out. The ceiling lights exploded. Darkness consumed the room. When the emergency lights blinked back to life, Elias stood over Merrin's lifeless body, her syringe shattered beside him. His hands were red, too red. He stumbled backward, shaking, the hunger purring inside him like a satisfied beast. On the wall behind her body, written in her own blood, were 3 words. The cure remembers. Now there was no turning back. Every moment, every breath, every drop of blood he shed drew him closer to the weapon he was meant to become. But somewhere, buried beneath the hunger, a spark still fought, a whisper of who he once was. As dawn rose over New Dresden, Elias looked out across the city, eyes glowing faintly in the half-light. He could feel the protocols spreading, linking him to others, soldiers still sleeping, still waiting to awaken. And as the hunger surged again, he finally understood what Marin meant. The serum didn't want to kill him. It wanted to remember through him. The city trembled under the weight of that new dawn. And Elias Ward, the last human fragment inside a weaponed shell, whispered to the wind, "If I must burn to stop it, then let the fire begin."